Sports fans, get ready for Sportz-USA. Get sports from a personal point of view from seasoned professionals who've reported and lived the stories. Now let's go to the crew high atop the Sportz-USA press box. Hello, everybody. I'm John Askins, and welcome to this week's edition of Sportz-USA.com. Man, we're already up to episode 13. Hopefully it's a lucky one. And we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. A lot of things have gone on. So we took a week off, and I hope we can cram it all in. Let's talk about, let's pick up the first issue that we could throw out, Coach K. Let's talk about softball. The brackets have been chosen, and the regionals are set. And I think we can go through, and every one of us can pick our favorites.
Well, you look at it, it's all set up now. We kind of who we figured, Alabama number one, got the number one seed. Texas number two as the SEC champion, which is kind of strange because they beat Alabama in the championship game. OU is third, even though they got knocked out before they even got started in the SEC championship. And then Nebraska, my little dark horse all year long, is in there at number four. So, it's a loaded field. And again, like we were talking a couple of weeks ago, any one of the teams can win this. It's really up for grabs because, you look at Alabama, they're riding pitching right now. They've got a 1.6 ERA pitching staff. Unbelievable. But OU's riding their hitting at 389. So in fact, it's going to be some contrasting styles here as we get into the tournament. And I think right now I would have to lean toward Alabama in pitching because in my history of coaching, pitching wins championships. So
I agree with you. I agree with you, Coach. But I was surprised. The biggest surprise, and of course, I got to talk about my Red Raiders. They were in the top five all year long, make it to the Big 12 championship game. Yes, they lost in the Big 12 championship game, but they dropped all the way to seed 11. How did that happen?
Yeah, that's unbelievable. I was really shocked when I saw that. Again, they've got two of the best pitchers in college softball. Canada and Terry. What a 1-2 punch. If one's off a little bit, they can, it's like the other day in the championship game. They just kept bringing them back and switching back and forth. So, that was a real shocker for them to fall that far. I expected them to easily be in the top 10, if not in the top 6.
Yeah, I think they got hosed.
Yeah,
definitely.
They got hosed. Got hosed.
The thing is that's a higher seed than they had last year. So that just because they're 11th doesn't mean, they don't have a road to the championship. And I think that they're going to be very motivated by that seed again.
And again, you can look at it, in a short series, any one of these teams can get upset. Especially, there's some dark horses out there, teams that you really have never even heard of, Liberty, some of the others that have an ace that can take them all the way through in a short series. And so any one of these teams is subject to being upset at any time. So you're right. The seed really doesn't, it gives you a home field advantage for the regional. And then after that, super regional, and then on to Oklahoma City, it's up for grabs.
Tom, who's your picks?
Well, I think overall, I agree with Coach K. I think Alabama's got that pitching. I do look for a team that nobody's talking about a lot, but Arkansas has actually been playing really well as of late. Yeah. And I think Arkansas might surprise some people in this tournament as well. Tech has been all season, they've only lost 6 games. But those 6 games that they lost, almost all of them were surprising losses. They didn't lose to necessarily really strong teams. So to Coach K's point, anybody can beat anybody on any given day, especially with these teams that have one ace. So My pick, though, is Alabama, and I think a dark horse, Arkansas.
Anybody else got any upset picks or anything?
I'm saying Texas Tech's going to win because they were saving their pitching in the Big 12 championship.
Well, I'm with you. I think
I'm kidding.
I'm going to pick the top two, although they'll play each other and eliminate one before the championship game. But my favorites are Oklahoma and Texas Tech.
That's true. Yeah.
Bo, how about let's shift to college baseball? The latest polls, UCLA is still at the top, but we've had some shifting from two non-conference teams out of the SEC. Georgia Tech and North Carolina have moved to like the second and third spot.
Second and third. Yes. Two of like 6 teams in the country that have gotten 40 wins already. And Coach, on a Division II note, Coach K's Colorado Mesa team is the number 1 seed in the Division II regionals that start this week. So that's you'll have to get over to see some of that activity. But no, you're right. The ACC's flexing its muscles, and there are 4 Big Ten teams. Of course, USC and UCLA are latecomers to the Big Ten group there, but there are 4 Big Ten teams in there for the first time in as long as I can, maybe last 15 years.
Yeah, I think the last Big Ten team I can remember doing anything was Michigan.
Yeah, they played Vandy in the finals, I think, in 2019.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about golf. We've got Mark Johnson with us today. Hey, Mark, thanks for joining us. And we've got a big tournament coming up this weekend, the PGA Championship. Last time we talked to you about a tournament, the favorite, I guess, was Rory McIlroy, and he lived up to the billing, and we haven't heard much from him since. Do you think he's coming back strong this week?
I think I've been following the Sportsline betting pool. And of course, they have Scheffler at the top, which he's my pick too, only because he's angry right now. He seems to play really well when he's angry.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but if Scotty doesn't, I'm not really. They have Rory in second place in terms of the odds right now, but yeah, I just don't know. I don't know that much about the course, and I just without having the course knowledge, I wouldn't think that it'd be something that Rory would be good for Rory. Cam Young is the one that I'm considering kind of a dark horse because he's peaking right now and playing really well. He held off Scheffler for his last tournament victory, and he was playing with him and just ate him up on the last day. Even though Scotty played pretty well, he just played better. And,
what's Young's background? Don't know much about him.
I always confuse him with the other Cameron. I don't really know that much about him. He was fairly hot a couple of years ago, and then he kind of struck back, but he seems to be peaking again, and a lot of people are talking about him. And I would say if it's not Scotty, then it might be Cameron Young. Supposedly, McClure at Sportsline has some 6,000 to 1 long shot that he thinks is going to climb up the leaderboard. I don't know who that would be. I always assume it's going to be my emotional favorite, Tommy Fleetwood, only because I love Tommy's game, and I always want him to win. He finally did win, and but I think this is going to be Scotty's week. It's a tough course. He plays tough courses really well, and I just think he's going to eat it up.
Mark, what's your opinion of Ludwig Aberg?
I like him. He's a great player. He's in the top 5 of these Sportsline picks this week. He always shows up in the majors. It's just he's not breaking through like everybody would expect he would all the time. But yeah, no, that would be another dark horse that could easily pull up to the top of the board.
Yeah, it seems like to me he starts out like the first 2 rounds and does really, really well, and then kind of peters out near the end. That's been my observation over the last several tournaments.
Yeah, he's doing the kind of things that, Victor Hovland has started to do. Victor Hovland, when I first saw him play at the U.S. Open, the last U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, I thought this guy should just be beating everybody. And and I think Victor will probably still be. He's in the hunt every week. He's just not always at the top. But it's a funny game. Everybody goes in streaks. Scotty seems to have been kind of off a little bit, but then he starts running into trends again, and he seems to be in that trend now. And he is the defending champion, so he's got something to prove.
Absolutely.
Lee, what's the scuttlebutt at your golf clubhouse?
Hey, all guys, everybody, we're in Texas, and nobody wants to say Jordan Spieth so he can get his 10th time to try to win the Grand Slam. If he wins this week, he'll be another one to have enjoy the Grand Slam. So I hope he wins it.
Well, he certainly has the motivation. I agree. I think it'd be nice to see somebody like that win that Grand Slam.
Yeah. Nobody more deserving than Jordan to do it. Sure.
Let's talk a little bit about Major League Baseball. I've got my NBC Sports hat on today as a tip of the hat for NBC getting back in the Major League Baseball game. Shades of Joe Garagiola and Tony Kubek, and
Great
glad
time.
to see them back doing games.
I got a complaint.
What's that?
I mean, I wanted to watch a game the other night on whatever I have for my TV, and it was blacked out in Amarillo, and it was the Astros. So they think we're close. They think we're
You
close.
probably
to
saw a
Houston.
better thing with a black screen than their actual game.
Yeah. It's probably nothing to do with your TV set.
Or you need 3 or 4 subscriptions to watch all the major league teams.
Yeah, it's a big pain in the rear. There's no doubt that they've made it not fun, and I fear that the NFL is going down that path too with all of their streaming services that they're going to go to with the games. I'm sure you guys have heard about that as well. I think even President Trump mentioned it the other day that he's not for it either. So kind of crazy.
Friday night the games are on Apple, I think. I think
right.
Friday night Apple
They
TV.
are. Yes.
I don't have that subscription.
No, Bo, we went from Major League Baseball for college baseball, but one thing I wanted to mention is that at the beginning of the year, I mentioned that my surprise team this year might be the Rice Owls again, and I see that David Pierce has got the Owls back in the tournament, their conference tournament.
Yes.
Which last year they were so bad they weren't even in their conference tournament.
Yeah.
So this year they're 30. Coming into action this week, they're 31-22.
Yes.
That's not bad based on what their record was last year.
Tremendous.
So I think Coach Pierce has gotten things turned around in the right direction.
It might be. They got a better record than Vanderbilt or Clemson, who are both in danger of not making the Vanderbilt's been in 19 consecutive regionals, and that's very much in danger of. I think their RPI right now is 67. But no, right? Coach Pierce is a class act. I was sorry he got let go in Texas. They just want national championships every year. So, nothing less. But he's a great baseball mind, and he'll continue to really do well at Rice.
Yeah, it's a proud program there.
Yeah,
Tom, I see where the Aggies have slid a little bit, and the Longhorns have moved back up. Explain that one, Bo.
Well, I'll comment quickly and let Tom go. Texas lost to the bad UT, as I call it, Tennessee twice last week in Knoxville. So that dropped them down a couple. But the Aggies beat Texas twice and had the third game rained out. So it's been a weird year. I think there've been like 11 sweeps in the Southeastern Conference this year, which is got to be an all-time record. I can't ever remember that.
And as far as the Aggies go, from John's question, and every team struggles with injuries, there's no doubt. But I have never seen a team that just has almost every player is hobbling somehow right now with the Aggies. Their arms are hurt.
Obviously, you don't watch the Astros.
Well, we're talking college ball here. Yeah, the Astros. That's just a whole nother stratosphere, but no pun intended with the Astros. But it is definitely in Aggie land, it is baseball playoff time here. It's a big series this weekend. Bo, you alluded to it earlier with Mississippi State coming into town. It's going to be a big weekend, and really, I think A&M needs to sweep to get themselves set up for a top 8 seed, if that's what they want going into the NCAA regionals. Do you think that's possible, Bo?
Yeah, it might be. Mississippi State got clobbered by Auburn in the run rule the last game and lost to 5-4. They scored all the runs in the first game of the series and didn't hit the ball the next 2 games. But I'm trying to remember, Tom and John, correct me on this. Is this the first year that the SEC is going to single elimination? They used to have 4 play-in games, and then they'd go either have 12 or 8 teams, picking up from their double limit. But this is a totally single elimination.
Yeah, I think it is single elimination.
Which the Big 12 and all 16 teams will go, which is fairly interesting. But
well, I thought that was very unusual in the Big 12 softball tournament that nobody got a bye. Everybody played. Texas Tech, had won the tournament. I mean, won the conference title, and they had to play a first round game.
Yeah.
So that there's some strange things going on. While we've got Kevin back, hey Kevin, let's. I want to ask you a question. What's your feelings on Craig Morton? Let's shift to the NFL a little bit. The very first Cowboy game I ever covered as a professional, Craig Morton was the starting quarterback.
Well, he had a heck of a career there. He sure did. I think he's the only. I was a kid when he was playing. So I remember every Sunday afternoon watching him play, and he was good. Obviously, he made his mark.
He was the first NFL quarterback to lead 2 different franchises to the Super Bowl, but unfortunately, he got beat in both of them.
What? That was the Orange Crush that he was the second.
It was 1977, I believe. The Orange Crush, the same year that Georgia had Herschel Walker. I remember I was skiing up at Purgatory, and there were a group of condos right next to each other, and one was a group of Cowboy fans, and one was a group of Georgia fans, and all I heard the whole 2 days I was there skiing was, "How about them dogs? How about them Cowboys? How about them dogs?" Went on forever, late until the night.
That Orange Crush team was quite amazing from what my memories were. I was young back then too, but I remember watching it. Yeah, Randy Gradishar in middle linebacker, right? Yeah, very strong. Yeah.
Who was the middle linebacker, Bo? God, he was so good.
Leroy Jordan or
no, for the Broncos. Tom Jackson? Is that
Tom Jackson? Yeah.
Tom Jackson.
TJ.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't Craig Morton? Didn't Tom Landry once alternate Morton and Staubach because he couldn't decide on a quarterback, so he just alternated them every other play?
Sometimes it was every other play.
Yeah, and not just in some series.
And what happened was that they alternated them, and Morton, got him to the Super Bowl, but they lost, I think, to the Colts. That was the year that they lost on Jim O'Brien's field goal, 16-13. And so the next year, Landry started favoring Staubach, and then he led him to the Super Bowl and won, and that was the beginning of the end for Morton. They traded him to the Giants.
Yeah, and when you're talking about that Super Bowl 5 against the Colts, I think, if memory serves me correctly, that is the only time that a losing team had the most valuable player. Chuck Howley, I believe,
you're right,
was the MVP of that game, even though the Cowboys lost on that field goal by O'Brien. So,
speaking of the Cowboys losing.
That's always a fun topic.
Yeah.
They're releasing the NFL schedule this week, but they're, releasing a couple of these games as teasers. And the Cowboys have got a Monday Night Football against the Giants again, Kevin. You know, we talked about that in our last show. Why is this franchise deserving of these nice media placements when they haven't won in 30 years?
But they're America's team.
No, I don't know anymore. I don't know.
Well, John, I'm with you. I don't know why they get the kind of preference they get, because, you know, it's been a while since they've actually done anything significant. I mean, you know, the days when they were mystical, and I think that when they were mystical, I'm talking about Landry, the coach, Tex Schramm, general manager,
right?
The Murkinson family owned it, and Gil Brandt was, I don't even know what he did. Gil Brandt, he was Superman, or he was kind of like
he was in charge of the draft, I think, personnel,
super agent or something like that. But when they had those four in place, didn't they have them in place for like 25 years?
It was a long time, you know.
It was.
They were so smug. They were the first team that used the computer, you know, in sizing up some of their talents and their stats. And you know, it wasn't too long before the rest of the teams caught up with them. But yeah, that was quite a period, you know. And there's plenty of movies, you know, that portray that era that are pretty funny movies. But
yeah, I don't think Craig Morton was in North Dallas 40, was he?
No, I think he predated that. So let's talk a little bit about college football. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Notre Dame and Southern Cal are behind the scenes negotiating to re-energize that series, and it looks like the fans have finally been so vocal, you know, that they need to play, that they're changing their policy and reopening negotiations.
My favorite story about that series is supposedly the way it got going was Newt Rockney's wife became very good friends with the wife of the USC team, and they thought it would be great to have a series, and that's why they did it. Reality was Newt Rockney offered USC $100,000, which would be about $5 million today, to come to South Bend, and they'd go back and forth because he realized the marketing potential there of having Southern California come to South Bend and having Notre Dame go to Los Angeles.
Absolutely, and it's been a part of American fabric in college football since the Newt Rockney days. I mean, that has been a series that my dad was a huge Notre Dame fan, and I can remember many a times watching that game over the different falls. Lots and lots of great memories.
How many can remember when, I think it was 66, Notre Dame was undefeated, and they took like a 14 lead at halftime, but ended up losing 21-14. USC upset them, kept them from winning the national championship.
Yeah, and then a couple of years, I think after that was the year they played Michigan State at the end of the year and went for the tie to get the national championship, which a lot of people had a problem with. Do you remember that, Bo?
Oh, very well. I said they knew if they tied, Notre Dame would still win the national championship.
Yeah, that was crazy.
They weren't going to bowls then. So
Alabama was undefeated that year.
Yeah, didn't get it.
I've got a Duffy Daugherty story. Back in the days that I sort of grew up in the industry, they always used to have a media get together. You remember these, Bo, on Friday night?
Yeah.
Well, at Notre Dame, they even had a dinner, and they had both of the head coaches come to the dinner and address the crowd and everything. And Duffy Daugherty, his remarks were, "Hey, wouldn't it be funny if we started out the game with an onside kick tomorrow?" And everybody laughed and everything. And they started the game with an onside kick, recovered it, and won that game.
Did they recover it?
They did, and they won the game.
That's crazy.
Those are, that's those days of characters like that are long gone. We're talking about Mr. Button Down Tom Landry. I'm afraid he influenced a lot of coaches.
Yeah.
Coach K, did he influence you?
Oh, no, not really. That's right. You gotta put it out there, just kind of let people know. If you're not enthusiastic and you don't demonstrate it, then it's infectious. Your players pick up on it, and they want you to be out there. They want you to have a little bit of the braggadocio, that because if you don't have confidence in yourself and your team, they're not going to have confidence either. So you got to do a little bit to help promote yourself.
Absolutely.
Now, kind of going back to what you're talking about with Notre Dame and USC negotiating, I think one of the things there that is re-energizing that is the fact that, the strength of schedule is going to come in big,
right?
And seeding on the playoffs, whether we go to 16, 24, whatever they end up doing, strength of schedule is going to be one of the primary considerations. They're not going to be looking at that guy that's, 12 and 1, but they haven't played anybody. And, then you look at a team that's got 3 losses, but they played, I'm looking at Texas OU this year. Their schedules are absolutely brutal. Absolutely. I mean, they're doing the death march from day one. They're starting out OU, Michigan, Texas, Ohio State. They've got a schedule that is scary. And but if they come through it, with just 2-3 losses, who's to say they're not still qualified for making the college football playoff, even if we stay with the 12? So, I think strength of schedule is a big motivating factor on re-energizing those negotiations for both sides.
Well, I think that's why you see the coaches are pushing for the 24 model.
Looking at that, the Coaches Association came out in favor of that, but then, there's some, you got all the coaches involved there. And if you go to the Power Four, they're kind of not quite as enthusiastic because they still want to keep that 2 open week dates in there. And if they go to the 24, you're giving up one of those open week dates. So that's recovery time. And when you're playing a brutal schedule, you got to have that week or 2 weeks someplace in your schedule to help you get your team back on track. And so I can see some real splits there between the Power Four and the 6, having different ideas about how they'd like to see it play out.
Right.
Lee, what's the pulse out in West Texas with the Big 12 and all of this talk about expansion and everything? I mean, it seems like they get left out a little bit with the big talk.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, you have the other leagues were so big, they're not even going to have a chance to get in. I think they'll be lucky they get 2 or 3 teams in at the rate they're going right now. I think, like, they're diminished in the eyes of some only because they don't feel like they have an entire quality as those guys in the SEC. Did you like Lane Kiffin's comments about Ole Miss this week?
Yeah,
that was kind of funny, wasn't it?
And what about Sarkisian? Well, kudos for the Longhorns. They set an all-time record for academic achievement, their grade point average. And boy, he took a few shots at Ole Miss too, didn't he?
Oh yeah,
saying that his students weren't taking basket weaving.
and as we've talked about, I'm amazed that any of these guys even do any classes. They're all doing them online, and it's such a different world than like when you played, Coach K. I mean, it was just a completely different world.
Oh, it's absolutely just mind-boggling because, like you say, how many are doing on-site classes? I can remember, getting up, 6:30, go to the chow hall, get breakfast, get your books, and trot across campus, go to the South Oval, wherever. And, you had classes, and then you go to practice at 3:30. You know, it's totally different. I mean,
Well,
at
Coach,
your leisure.
it brings up a point. You know, Tom, in the middle of a discussion last week, said, "Are they really still students?" And this week, those Nebraska athletes, they lost their lawsuit against the College Sports Commission. And I think that the Sports Commission is going to come back to them and get them paid, because I heard that the last thing that they want is to get the Nebraska Secretary of State or Attorney General involved in legal action against the Sports Commission. But they lost that lawsuit, which I was very surprised. And Mark, how do you feel about these schools now? Are they students, or are they union members? I mean, you got Cal and Stanford playing across the country. How can they be making their grades?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that, John, because there's so many changes, and it's not just the athletes. Um, you know, I'm amazed at how many kids now are not really caring much about going to college. And if that's the case, what's gonna happen? I mean, I can't imagine sports going anywhere with the university, because there's just so much money involved. But are they going to be even just less students there? Because they just don't. They see it kind of as a waste of time.
Well, what Coach K's alluding to is a lot of these athletes at these schools aren't even going to a physical class. They're taking
Exactly.
stuff online.
Yeah.
Can you imagine when you were playing, Mark, not ever having to step foot on campus?
No, and it's funny. It's the thing that's funny at Rice at the time. Unless you were just really smart, chances are you were in the same classes. All the
Right.
sports guys were in the same classes. They were half-assing it, but they were showing up. And like Coach says, they had the rounds that they had to do, and then we'd be on the course in the afternoons. The football guys could be going to practice. Everybody else would be going off to their practices. And that was the routine. I mean, it wasn't that much difference than it was when you were in high school. And college sports is now so different. I mean, I'm still amazed at the idea that they can do off-site classes, because I just think, and it's not to blame the athletes, but they're there for a reason. They want to take their career into the pro ranks, and that's what they're thinking about. And, there's going to be a rare person that's also interested in whatever's going on in sports. There's not too many Eric Heidens out there that think they're going to go to the Olympics and they're going to be a doctor.
Right.
They're there to advance their sports career. I just wonder what's going to happen to the whole university. I think I see the whole university metaphor changing, because sports not going to go away. It's a gateway to the professional ranks. But if you don't have the same size student body, because everybody else is figuring with AI going on, I'm either going to pick a trade, or I'm going to be an influencer, or I'm going to do something on my own.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be the same path unless you're the standard set, the doctor, the lawyer, whatever. I just see, especially with college getting as expensive as it's gotten, I just don't see how colleges continue to grow unless they become sports incubation tanks, pretty
Well,
much.
and that's essentially what they are. I mean, let's call it what they are. They're basically, in almost every sport, the minor league, if you will, for that sport. I mean,
Well,
we're talking
unfortunately, the group that really profits off of all this is the NFL, because they've made colleges their minor leagues.
Oh, absolutely.
They haven't had to go out and do like a D League or something for their football team. And unfortunately, the colleges have never backed off on that, said, no, you go off and do your own thing. Our college teams are for us and for the alumni and for the athletes, and to get an education. That's out the window.
Right. And for all of the non-revenue generating sports, you're still seeing it as a minor league system, whether it's women's basketball, softball, lacrosse. All of these are sports that are gaining momentum. Soccer are gaining
Exactly.
momentum. Golf in the professional ranks and the college ranks where they're getting some of this NIL money. It's becoming their minor league system coming up. There's no doubt about it.
Kevin, what do you have an update, or have you heard any more about the situation with the quarterback at Tech?
I have not. I have not. The one source I had that was a good source on that one, I just haven't talked with in a while. And, all I know was, like Roy Rogers said, all I know is what I read in the newspaper. And, I saw where he said he's going to sue, or a lawyer for him said he's going to sue to try to get his eligibility back. And, we've already talked about this, John. It wouldn't shock me if he does, because anytime the NCAA goes to court, they lose. And so I don't know if that'll have any bearing on anything, but he's going to try to sue. But I just don't know where all that stands, other than, boy, what a mess.
It is a mess, and the moral clause there, to me, gives Tech an out for having to pay him. But I also think there's a ethical situation where if he does win this, does Coach McGuire play him? I mean, he's the top player. Does he play him? And if he does, and then there comes more ramifications, I've heard McGuire might get suspended.
Well, the thing is, no, McGuire would be suspended if they tried to go out and get a quarterback now.
Okay.
That's what that's about. But if they get an injunction, let's say, in Sorsby's favor, and that keeps the NCAA from prohibiting him from playing, and he goes ahead and plays, and let's say Tech goes 12-1 and gets into the playoffs, to me, that could be negated when the injunction is lifted, and they could lose that whole calendar of wins. I mean, the NCAA would swoop in and say, look, he was ineligible from the get-go. You guys have to forfeit all the wins and all the money that you got.
The money, who cares?
Yeah,
well, I mean, so what does Tech do? No, what does McGuire do? If he gets an injunction, what does Texas Tech do? Did they play him? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't play him at all. I'd cut my ties.
Do you remember 2 or 3, 4 years ago, the guys at Iowa were one of the first ones to get caught betting? And this was kind of before all the NIL money came up, but there was a group of Iowa football players who got caught, and they were suspended, and one of them was a quarterback. You know where he ended up? He ended up in the JUCO ranks, because Canyon, Texas, West Texas A&M hosts the junior college football championships. It has for the last 2 or 3 years. He showed up with a school from Iowa, a junior college, and won the championship that night.
Do you remember his name?
I have to go research it, but he was an Iowa quarterback. He ended up going to like Iowa Western or someplace like that in the JUCO ranks, and he played. And they were saying that I don't think he got drafted in the NFL, though. But he showed up playing football.
Coach, I'm showing my age here, but when I hear Iowa, talk about an Iowa player being suspended for gambling, I'm thinking about Alex Karras.
Connie Hawkins.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Paul
way
Hornung.
back. Paul Hornung, yeah.
I mean, you go back, look at the NFL. Has always had that. I mean, and
Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays had some gambling issues too, if I remember correctly.
It's been around, but then with legalized gambling in like 30-something states right now.
Especially with the growth of
and I was watching
and things like that. It's just going to get bigger and bigger.
Well, I mean,
more
it's terrible.
People are going to get in trouble.
A poly market.
You can bet on just if somebody makes a free throw.
That's right.
I mean, instant betting. It's ridiculous.
And with the
players
having
these things,
with the players having their phones on the sidelines, they could make a bet right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, they could. But
and you know, some of them
the ironic thing is that they're sponsoring all of these events. All of these,
they're everywhere.
Sports books are
FanDuel and
Kevin, I think taking a hint from your comment last week, I think they just need to throw out all these rules, let the players do whatever they want to, and let the mafia be the final judge on who plays and who doesn't. Right.
Well, probably wouldn't be the worst thing that could happen, because what's happening now is close to ridiculous. Because, like, I know Tommy Tuberville and other people have offered solutions, so to speak, but the second that they cap NIL, you're going to have players suing, claiming that they're
that's right,
denying them financial opportunities. So, and like we said, the NCAA loses every time they go to court. So,
well, how does the NFL navigate the salary cap, which they've got one?
Why
don't they get sued?
They raise it every year.
They do, but they agree on a certain, maximum. How do they do that?
Well, because I think all their bonus money is not part of their salary, though. They can pay them whatever they want and give them the bonus money. Then they make $1 million a year, but they've got $40 million in the bank already. And I
can't remember, is incentive money in that either? I mean, like if they catch 100 passes, or they get an extra 10 million. I don't know if that goes against the cap or not either.
Yeah.
Well, all I know is they talk an awful lot about the salary cap, in the NFL, and that affects, who they sign and who they draft. So I don't know how they do that without getting sued.
We should call Jerry Jones. He knows all about the cap.
He knows all about the cap and making money. He knows nothing about building a winning football team.
He owns America's team.
That's right. Well, I think we've covered that already.
Major League Baseball, it's kind of surprising this year. I mean, I'm looking at the standings and stuff. You look at the, Tampa Devil Rays.
I don't know how they do it every year. They're
right now they're ahead of the Yankees. I mean,
that's
the favorite teams are not in the lead right now. The Dodgers and the Yankees are both in second place in their divisions. You got the Devil Rays right now. You got, the Padres. Now, who would have said San Diego was going to be leading Los Angeles in the National League West right now?
I think I brought up Mason Williams last show. That guy is incredible.
He's the real deal. I agree.
I mean, you're looking at it. I mean, we talked about, relievers. The other thing is just blowing my mind right now. Look at the number of pitchers that are throwing 100-mile-an-hour plus. You and I had a little private discussion during the week, back in, 10 years ago, a guy that threw 100 miles an hour was an anomaly. He was an oddity.
But look at how many pitchers are on the injured list. Look at how many pitchers.
We also talk. I mean, they don't last very long right now.
Yeah,
that's an
they're flamethrowers,
idea,
but they flame out.
Coach, that's an interesting idea. I'm just wondering your thoughts are about how that has happened. Is the conditioning that much better and availability for these kids to be able to build their arm speed, their ball speed, with their arm strength, or how has it happened? Because I've been surprised by that too. How many pitchers are throwing 100 miles?
I mean, you look at something like, Jacob Mizorowski, I think, from
the Brewers. Yeah.
From the Brewers. He threw 10 pitches in a row, 102, 103, and his last pitch was 104.
And my bet is by next year he's going to be going for Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the next step.
I don't know that it's similar, but the thing that I would bring up, and this is not being sexist, guy, this is a fact. Women's basketball players lead the world in knee surgeries, and it's because they're physically built different. to where they never were really, they never, I guess, grew that particular muscle or whatever, down through the centuries. And I think it's the same thing is going to happen with these guys throwing 100 miles an hour. Arms are not built for that type of abuse.
No.
Oh, that's
And a
not the
guy that I
natural
wish we
motion.
could get on here is John Smoltz, because he would tell you the same thing, that you can't ever put the genie back in the bottle. But what's leading to all these injuries in the pitching staffs are the demands and by these teams wanting 100-mile-an-hour pitchers.
Yeah.
And that's unusual for a starter. We see it, and I was I watched a lot of baseball this weekend, and I wanted to see Mason throw, and I got to see him throw a couple of times, and it surprised me and shocked me that he's a 3-out pitcher.
Yes.
I mean, they were worried when he had to go 4 outs. They didn't know if he could do it.
Right.
I mean, and because the velocity and the wear and tear on his arm.
Yeah.
You look at Mizarski, he's 6'7", 220 pounds. And, Aaron Judge was talking, he's got an unfair advantage. He's halfway to home plate when he delivers.
He's like J.R. Richard.
And Aaron Judge can talk about an unfair advantage, right? I mean, he's like...
he's 6'7" also. But he said he's one of the best pitchers he's ever faced.
you were talking about the injuries, and I know Skubal got injured this week, a pretty major injury for one of the top premier pitchers in the league, young pitchers in the league. From what I understand, it's a pretty serious injury.
And I mean, I agree. The physiology classes I took in college, throwing a baseball is not a natural action.
It's
underhanded softball is the underhand is the least restrictive on the joint. That's why you see ACLs and all the good things, that
well, maybe that's the next frontier for the major leagues, that they perfect the underhand 100-mile-an-hour delivery.
Some of the guys that, the three-quarter sidearm probably are going to have a greater longevity
I remember
than the overhand guy.
Remember him? Dan Quisenberry and Kent Colby?
Yeah.
Those sidearm pitches?
Ted Underwood. I can go way back. Ted Underwood for the Reds.
Either that or Elon Musk is going to figure out how to put Optimus robots on the mound.
There you go.
In trouble.
Well, I don't know if you saw one of our last episodes, Mark, about the marathon runners, the Chinese marathon runner robots.
Yeah.
They've actually now beaten the times of humans.
Yeah.
They did fall down one time and had to be picked up, but they still beat the humans times. What before you go, Mark, we've talked about the woes for the Astros. Man, the Giants are just down there too.
All I can tell you is the Tony Vitello honeymoon is officially over.
That
national championship. I was glad to see him crush the Dodgers yesterday. They took care of the Dodgers pretty easily in L.A. So,
well, and what's surprising to me is every time I read about the Dodgers, they're complaining about they don't have any pitching either. And I think it's a product of these guys coming in and getting hurt.
I think you're right. Yeah, Giants just don't. I mean, they have a little bit of chemistry. It's not like the old days, though. I mean, they've got a couple of really good players. Devers is starting to kind of play more up to what he's expected to do. Helio Ramos is awesome. They've got good players. I mean, their pitchers are falling off, and they didn't expect that to happen to guys like Logan Webb. But they're in a tough division, and if you don't figure out a way to get the money, get the big players out of Japan, just like L.A. went out and did, you're just not going to compete. And
obviously, Houston doesn't know how to do that, because they went out and got a Japanese pitcher, and he lasted one game and has done nothing because he says he can't adapt to the American way of living.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Except for the money.
They need to
Yeah,
say,
there you go.
dozo, turn the aircraft carrier into the wind, and
Exactly.
get out there,
All right, I got to run, guys.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Can you
Good
stay for
seeing
All
you.
right, Mark.
Scattershooting?
See you later.
I got a New Mexico story you're going to miss, but you'll have to watch the episode.
No, I want to hear about it later.
Okay, all right.
Bye-bye, John.
Bye.
Bye, Mark.
Kevin, what you keep coming in and out. What do you have to add?
Well, are we scattered shooting yet?
Nah, you want to go to that, Tom?
Yeah, let's go to Scattershooting.
All right, go to Scattershooting. Kevin, you're up number one.
I'll tell you what, there's nothing in particular other than, what we've already talked about. If I were Coach McGuire at Texas Tech, God almighty, you talk about being between a rock and a hard place. That is a real tough. And then the other thing, too, based on what they did last year and the year before, there's going to be a lot of people expecting a lot out of them. And all of a sudden, if they're going with a third-team quarterback, that might not be as easy to get wins as it was the last couple of years. So, they're in a tough situation, all right.
They seem to think that these guys that they have will be good enough to get them through the non-conference, schedule, the first 3 or 4 games. And then they've got Will Hammond coming back from a knee injury.
Yes.
But if you remember, Will Hammond is not a throwing quarterback. And so if his the best attribute was his running, he's coming off an ACL surgery.
Yeah. And a lot of people are just never the same when they have to deal with those kind of injuries. So,
Lee, what's your scatter shooting?
I just want to say best of luck. Kevin will appreciate this, to the thousands of athletes who are about to hit Austin, Texas. It's the UIL state track meet. Thousands of them will be running, and there's nothing more exciting than to be at that stadium when they run that 1,600-meter relay, the 6A guys, and it's usually a national record set or whatever. So good luck to everybody down there. It's always an exciting 3-4 days and nights at what's that stadium called at the UT? Where they run the track and soccer field.
It's named after the attorney. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, anyway, good luck to them all, because there's going to be thousands of them down there trying for their best to take home a medal.
Ed Lennox always said that's the best show in the state. And he might have been right. And I'll tell you what, Lee, you may or may not remember this athlete, but Amarillo High had a long-distance runner named Brenda Moore. And I'll always remember this forever. We're talking about, good Lord, mid-late 80s. She ran, and I think she might have been a 2-miler or whatever, and she smoked them all. And I always remember the announcer over the PA system saying, Brenda Moore wants it all, and she wants it all today. It just sent chills down my spine to see an Amarillo athlete get acknowledged like that, because that is one heck of a show.
Mike Myers Stadium.
Mike Myers.
Yeah,
I remember the classic quote from the SID longtime SID at University of Texas, Jones Ramsey. The worst thing about track is field.
That's a good one.
Coach K, what's up?
Just looking at, doing some reading. I'm just blown away right now by the price of the World Cup tickets.
Oh,
I mean, right now you're looking at, this is greed at the max. And it just blows my mind. The people coming here from all over the world looking for tickets, and they're just in total sticker shock. The average ticket right now, over $13,000. Some tickets are going anywhere from $2 to $10 million for prime seating in the finals. It's ridiculous, whatever happened to the sports belonging to the people. It's really, we talk about several things here today, and one of the underlying driving factors and everything, Friday night football. Why are they doing that? Why are colleges playing on Friday night? The money. It's making money for their program, giving them exposure. But this is ridiculous. This is just, it hasn't happened anywhere else in the world. and it kind of gives us a little bit of a black eye.
Well,
So
you see what the world has become. It's the world of haves and have-nots. And what's happened around the world now has come to the United States. And over the last couple of decades, the economy has favored the ultra rich, and that's who's buying those tickets.
Man, I saw
you'd have to.
I was going to say, I saw a graphic comparing the World Cup in Qatar to the World Cup this time for what ticket prices are. It's incredible what they've shot up in 4 years. Unbelievable.
Crazy.
So, you want me to go next time?
I'll go.
Okay. All right.
So
what's your scatter shooting?
We've talked a little bit about the ABS system in Major League Baseball. Something happened the other night, twice in the same game, that I was quite surprised with that ABS system. The umpire didn't allow it. The players were calling for it. The catcher called for it one time, and the home plate umpire said, "No, we're not going to it." And apparently there's some caveat that if they don't ask within 2 seconds or something like
2 seconds,
that they can back out of it. And it was the first time that they didn't grant it. I think a coach or two got tossed from the game for getting yelled at about it. What do you guys make of that? I found it intriguing that a home plate umpire would kind of his power there like that.
Yeah, the 2-second rule to keep them from getting assistance from the bench to make the call. They can't use the television there. So I can understand, it's got to be an immediate reaction. But, in one of them, he was well within the time, and he just arbitrarily said no. So the other one, yes, there was a gap. So of the two calls, one was probably right. Again, one was probably wrong.
Do you think the umpire should have that leeway, though? I understand about the time constraint, but should the umpire have the ability to say, no, we're not going to that? That was a strike or that was a ball.
Yeah, I think they should. You got to draw the line somewhere. And the other thing that the ABS has done is, have you seen how the bases on balls have gone out of the roof?
Through the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Up almost 15%.
And what that is that the umpires are not calling. They're waiting for the players to challenge. And so, if it's a borderline pitch, the umpires are not going to call it, and they're going to wait for the player to challenge it or not.
And I wonder how pitchers of past would have liked this. Like I think about a player like Greg Maddux, who constantly, as Vin Scully would always say, paint it black. He always painted the corners. Would Greg Maddux like pitching with this system? Because a lot of those would probably be called balls by the system.
Well, I think the fans overwhelmingly are for the system, don't you think, Coach K? I think I saw like
that's all I've heard.
75% of the fans
it's positive
are for it.
Because, the fact is, it's getting it right.
Right.
And that's what, in the end, it's kind of like the same thing with, everybody's still calling for review of pass interference in football. They want to have that. They want to have that. Tom, that's one of the hardest calls you guys have to make.
Absolutely. It's almost impossible because a lot of times it could go either way because they're chicken fighting all the way down.
Yeah. Hand fighting, hand checking.
Yeah.
Who's actually gaining the advantage? And, and 9 out of 10 times it's probably going to go against the defense.
Yep.
Well, I'm prejudiced. I coached defensive secondary for 40 years. And so I'm going to protect my guys. But and you teach.
Well, they have
things.
a right to the ball too, and I always tried when I officiated that. I didn't get a lot of PI calls because I was usually up at umpire, but the few games that I did back in the wings, back in the back, I always tried to make sure that it was who got the advantage from the interference. That's who the foul was going to be on.
So I understand. And like I said, when you go to the ball strike situation, we want to get it right. And if it takes something like that, and it's instantaneous, there's no delay in the game.
Right.
I mean, that was one of the big fears, was it's going to slow the game down. You're going to spend all your time doing, well, I've watched quite a bit of baseball this last week or two, and it doesn't slow it down a bit.
Right.
All right, John, you're up. Scatter shooting with the Lobos.
All right. Well, my scatter shooting this week, as we mentioned, Texas Tech announced today that they have scheduled a game in 2027 against the New Mexico Lobos. And that brought back just waves of memories for me, because when I was at Tech, New Mexico played the Red Raiders every year.
Yeah.
And it was a great series. Although it was one-sided, Tech usually always won. I think Tech's like 23-2 against the Lobos all time. But this is my New Mexico Lobo from this past year. The Lobos made an outstanding coaching hire, Jason Eck, who I didn't know anything about. Came in from Idaho, brought his whole Idaho team with him, and they won 9 games. And they lost an exciting game to Minnesota in overtime. And in 1 year, he turned that mortar-bound program around into a really fun program to watch. And they brought back for homecoming these turquoise uniforms that they had not worn in 46 years. Since I was, going to the games, they wore these turquoise jerseys from 73 to 79. And I've got really great memories. The Lobos during that period had a quarterback named Steve Meyer, and they were good back then. They had players like Robin Cole, who went on to play for the Steelers, Andy Fredericks, who was a great linebacker, and Don Woods, who was a great running back for San Diego. And so it wasn't like that they were stooges back then. But probably my most overwhelming memory of New Mexico is that we would go to the games in Albuquerque because they always played Texas Tech during their state fair. And so it was sort of like a mini OU Texas game, Coach. It would be during the state fair. And so I remember 1 year, they've changed the stadium at University Stadium. They've enclosed the northern end zone, with seats, but it used to be just a ramp, a grass ramp with trees on both sides, fir trees on both sides.
Too. Yeah.
And I remember sitting in the student section, and boy, the marijuana smoke was just wafting through those trees. And me and a friend of mine met a couple of girls, and we, decided we'd go for cocktails after the game. She had to go by her parents' house to let them know where, she was going. And I remember going into, this is the most New Mexico thing I can think of. I remember going into her house, and her dad worked for Sandia Labs. And I walked in, and it was a Pueblo, structured house, with the vigas, the big, wooden poles, that lined the ceiling. It was really, really neat. And he had a panel with a TV, a huge TV for the time. And she told me that her dad had built their TV from scratch, like from Sandia Labs guy. I guess you'd expect them just to build a TV from scratch. But I think that if Jason Eck is going to get picked up, if he has another year like he did this year, he will be gone by the time that Tech plays in 2 years. But if he's still there, that's going to be a tough game for the Red Raiders, whether it's at home or not. And so that was my Lobos story.
Well, I agree. Even in my time at Tech, we always played New Mexico every year, and it was always an exciting game. Tech usually came out on top, like you said, but it was always a very spirited, fun game. I went to Albuquerque a couple of times for that game too. So
when I saw the game, the homecoming game was on TV. I think it was on CBS Sports Channel. And when I saw them run out with these turquoise jerseys, I about lost it. And I got on the internet right away and got this because they wore them a couple times. They wore them in the bowl game too. And you may not, I always thought that New Mexico's colors were cherry and silver, but it's cherry, silver, and turquoise. So they brought the turquoise back.
Nice. Very nice.
Turquoise makes sense for New Mexico.
It does.
It's part of their, I think that this jersey color is, and they wore the Zia emblem on their helmets, you know, the sunburst thing. And those uniforms are so closely associated with the state. It's like the Longhorn on the helmets at the University of Texas. I mean, I'm glad they brought these back.
Good deal.
All right.
Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's going to wind it. Oh, right.
Everybody wave goodbye.
Goodbye, guys. Take care.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Sports USA, available at our website at sports-USA.com.